All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It is July 29th, 2024. Wow. It's hard to believe August is almost here, but August is coming in with a bang. A 2024 election bang. So tonight's stream is called What Are Your Election Concerns? So depending upon who all joins me, this could go a little bit longer. I don't intend to talk because I can talk for an hour. Sometimes I surprise myself. But depending upon how many folks come through and voice what their concerns are in the chat, this could go a little bit longer. If no one comes, then I'll just cut it short so I can go watch House of the Dragon and have some dinner. And yeah, it was a bit of a restless night when you're embarking on entrepreneurship and trying to finish a book. You know, there are things that crop up, whether they be digital, whether they be in the production of the art. Last night was a bit of a restless night in an early morning. So I am going to play my intro. Detro 0861. Thank you for being here with the well, I'm not a member of the Divine Nine, so I should probably be careful with doing that. But I think the University of Texas has this thing they do, like the Longhorns. Go Blue. The University of Michigan, go Blue. Let's go Blue. 2023-24 national champions. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit of politics tonight. After last week's discussion, I thought it would be fun to focus on what you guys are thinking about because, oh man, this election coverage since Uncle Joe Cool, Jose, since he took a knee, and Auntie Kamala has ascended into what we think is going to be the Democratic nominee chair, or since she has ascended into what we think will be the Democratic nominee, it's just been a tsunami, a vortex. The election coverage on the traditional news media and on social media, it just sucks you in. You know, there are times when I don't want to watch. There are times when, I just kind of want to put the phone down. The YouTube streets are on fire. Twitter X is on fire, and it just sucks you in, you know. And so with that, I'm gonna play my intro. I'm gonna play my Aaron Clarey intro tonight because for my part of this, I'm gonna focus on economics, and I'm gonna talk about just the economic considerations of this election and just for this country in general. So so I'll see you on the other side. This is my Aaron Clarey intro. I interviewed Aaron Clarey at the beginning of this year regarding his book, Enjoy the Decline. Shout out to Cappy. And this deals with economics, and many of my talking points are going to deal with economics. But I want to hear what you guys are thinking and what you guys are concerned about in this fascinating and ever-evolving and historic 2024 presidential election. If anyone wants to make a donation during this stream, my Cash App and PayPal are there. You can also leave a super chat. And I might do something I haven't done in a while, which is throw the link in the chat. But if you guys come up and voice your concerns, just remember that I am a federal employee. And there are people watching me, okay? So you got to protect the content creator. There are Divine Nine people who might see this. So you guys, if I drop the link, and it's going to be a game time decision, you got to protect the content creator. T. Riddler, thank you for stopping through. Everybody, please smash that like button. All right. What are your concerns for the 2024 election? I'll see you guys on the other side. Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information.
You might say 50s pop music wasn't the great. Okay, culturally there might have been some problems you might have had with no culture is perfect, but it was a pretty darn good society we had going on, and now it's forget culture or music or even if people are obese or overweight. As an economist, I'm like, we went from like, I'd have to look it up, but having a surplus around like 40-50% GDP. Now we got a national debt of 110% GDP. Like the fundamental finances are absolutely shattered. And so we are a mere fraction of our former American selves. And so but the people who led that charge and opened that Pandora's box was the baby boomers.
Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. In this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. That is probably more accurate now than it has ever been, because with these digital spaces, your boomer generations, with the exception of folks like the master teacher and Black Uru, a lot of your boomers, and I think all of the silent generation and greatest generation folks, they're probably gone, except for a handful of folks. But a digital divide. So in other words, you guys probably have family members who are not on YouTube. You guys probably have family members who are not on Twitter X. So they know what Joyanne Reed tells them. They know what Rachel Maddow tells them. They know what Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitzer and the traditional corporate media, they know what they tell them, but they're not telling them everything. And there are so many other things shared and conveyed here in the digital spaces, some of which would make people on the outside clutch their pearls. And the digital spaces have the reputation for being toxic. Those toxic conversations, those toxic panels, okay, those toxic online platforms. But there's a lot of important information shared on these toxic digital platforms. Some things that you need to know. And so I'm going to open this up. I'm going to try not to talk long, because I want to know, consistent with the question in the title, what are your election concerns? I want to make that the focus, but I'm going to give an intro. So these toxic digital spaces, these online platforms, we talked about the Richard Reeves, Male Loneliness, Wes Moore, Michael Strautmanis, Stephanie Rule panel. There were a whole host of conversations around that. But I'll say, and I'm going to speak anonymously here, I was made aware of a family gathering not long ago. And one relative, I'm going to remain anonymous. This is going to be anonymous. I heard that one relative was glad that I wasn't there because it started talking about politics. Now, from a young age, politics, and I think we still had good civics education back then. That's one of the knocks on today's modern world, is that the young people don't have quality civics education. And that's dangerous around election time, because they don't understand what they're voting on or the ramifications of their votes. But I've always enjoyed presidential politics. I've always enjoyed history classes and social studies. And with what I've been learning in recent years, I think this relative well, I don't know if this person thought the conversation would go negative or go left, or maybe that I would share things that would make people uncomfortable. I don't know. But what I'm trying to do this year and going forward is I'm trying to practice not engaging. Okay. So if I hear someone say something that's questionable or that I don't agree with, I think there's power in not saying anything. So some of you all may have seen this meme. This is an offering from my Facebook page. So this is kind of where I'm approaching things. This is how I'm approaching things this year. So this is from my Facebook page. I think my cousin shared this, and I thought it was, to me, it was a good idea. It was very, very appropriate. Let me read this really quickly so you don't see my Facebook friends there. But don't, do that. Boom. Okay, so you don't see anybody. So to you all out there, this is my way of paying it forward. This is some advice for the next 3 to 4 months and probably afterwards. Don't lose friendships today. Oh, well, now it's one man and a woman who don't even know your names. It's okay to have different political views and still maintain love and respect for each other. Okay, I'm going to read that again. And I haven't seen an updated version of this. Don't lose friendships today over two men, over now a man and a woman who don't even know your names. It's okay to have different political views and still maintain love and respect for each other. So I think society-wide, we used to have that. We used to be able to share our views without people huffing and puffing and getting uninvited from barbecues and fish fries and giving each other the silent treatment. I think we used to have that, but that's become harder now. And another thing that we used to have, and I think I listen to a lot of political and historic podcasts and symposiums. One big difference today from yesteryear is that our elected officials on Capitol Hill, I'm talking about the senators in particular, and maybe the congressmen and women, their positions were supposed to be temporary. They were supposed to come to Washington for a set amount of time, work on something, complete something, achieve something, and then go back to where they came from. Okay. So these positions, these senatorial positions, these representative positions, these were never supposed to be lifetime careers. Okay. And I think that has impacted the politics that we've gotten in our modern times. So things have changed over the years. The environment has changed. And when the environment changes, behaviors change and all kinds of things change. Okay. So what are your election concerns? Okay. I'm going to start with mine. I have 3 links in the description box. I'm not going to play those. I'm going to talk about them to set up the question for you guys. What are your election concerns? Many of mine involve the economy. I'm a financially minded guy, and I want to live as much of an independent and sovereign life as I can. And I also care about the safety of the country. So I very much care about border security. But I'm going to play. Hopefully you guys don't run off. Please smash that like button if you haven't. I have a clip here, another clip with my favorite economist and political scientist, Anthony Davis and James Harrigan. I'm going to play half now. And then at the end of the stream, I'm going to play the whole thing because the whole thing is 4 minutes. I won't make you guys sit through that right now, but I'm going to play half. So bear with me. Hang on for 2 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and you guys let me know. Again, I want this to be interactive. What your political and election concerns are for this election. Okay. This particular clip involves government spending. Okay. And that is, regardless of how much you like either candidate, something I don't think many of them have been talking about in a transparent way is the national debt, and also the economics. I think in that clip with Aaron, he said the fundamental economics of the country are shot. Okay, we've got a gaping hole in the hull of the Titanic, and people are not paying attention. So the first half of this is about government spending, and then I'll come back and give my points. And I want to hear from you guys a little bit. All right.
Something to think about, because you started us off. This is the smart thing that I couldn't think about earlier. You started off by asking, how did we get here? And there's a thought experiment you might consider. Imagine that a bunch of people, a large number of people, 200 of us, go out for dinner. And the deal is, whatever the tab is, we're going to split it evenly. That's it. You order whatever you want, but we're going to split the tab evenly. And notice what happens here. Every single person there, all 200 of us, have two motivations. The one is, don't order more than what you can afford to pay for, because, we got to pay for this at the end. The other motivation is, go ahead and order more, because whatever you order is going to be spread over 200 people. And so we start out and we're all very careful. We only order what we can afford. And then James down at the end of the table, he orders the filet mignon and the shrimp and all this stuff and a bottle of wine.
A bottle of champagne, that's right.
And I look down there, I say, oh my God, I can't afford my share of that thing. But on the other hand, he's having a nice time over there. Well, I can't afford that. I'm going to order it too. I mean, I can't afford the bill as it is. And you see that and you order. And before you know it, we're all ordering as we all go around, and each of us orders more. And now we owe a tremendous amount of money. Each of us has an incentive to order still more to make up for the money that we're losing. And that's exactly what politicians do. I want to get elected, and so I'll promise the voters, elect me and I'll give you free iPhones. I know it's a stupid idea, but the voters will vote for me. And if I don't offer the free iPhones, James is going to come along and he's going to say, elect me, I'll give you free iPhones and free healthcare. And now you've got to compete with that. And so you're offering free education and free healthcare and free iPhones. And you can see how this works. It's the system. It's a natural outcome of the system. It's not malfeasance. It's not stupidity. It's a natural outcome you get when you allow the government to expand beyond its constitutional limits.
Okay. All right. I promised I'd do it in 2-minute bits. So towards the end, I'll play the entire thing, but I know I don't want to lose you guys. Some people's eyes glaze over for things like that, but I enjoyed that discussion. But that that's an important thing. Okay, so you have it's a fascinating time. It's been fascinating. I mean, there are some other words I could use since Uncle Joe stepped down and took a knee, and Kamala has kind of ascended to the Democratic nominee spot, which I still don't think she officially has it. She's gotten endorsements, but it's been fascinating to see what's happened afterwards. Okay. People are enamored with the history of it, right? They're enamored with a Black woman potentially becoming president. Okay. But what about the fundamental economics of the country? Okay. Are we on a Titanic that has a gaping hole in its hull, like Aaron said, where this whole thing is eventually just going to go bust? Okay. Is there an ending to the government spending? Is there an ending to the borrowing? Or will this just go on until infinity? Okay. All right. Salchi is here. Says, good evening. Salute to the equalizer. He says, I did see that. I will at least share some of those links before I wrap up. So I'm at 20 minutes. Okay. Speaking of Salchi the equalizer. All right. There are links below in the description box. Okay, I'm not gonna play these. If you guys want to watch them, you can watch them yourselves. But I watch a lot of things here on YouTube, and shout out to Salchi. Salchi turned me on to a woman named, a very lovely woman named Danielle DiMartino Booth. Danielle DiMartino Booth. Danielle DiMartino Booth is a financial analyst. Okay. And what's cool about listening to the financial analysts talk is that they often say things that the politicians are not saying. Okay. And they're discussing the underlying fundamentals of the country that the politicians are not talking about. Okay. So while these people are over here having Zoom calls, raising money to get Kamala more money, and they're enamored with her image and her demographic. Okay. While people are arguing what that demographic is. Okay. While President Trump is giving 90-minute speeches. Okay. There are some things going on. There are a lot of people hurting right now. And there are a lot of issues. There have been a lot of layoffs. Okay. There's been a lot happening that's not being discussed in this entire vortex of this presidential election. So this link is below in the description box. I'm not going to play this. It's an hour long. I would encourage you guys to take a look at this. This is called All Hell Breaks Loose. Okay. This is Danielle DiMartino Booth. She's the woman there. I don't know that gentleman's name. The insignia says Sachs Realty. Okay. So you gotta, when you're talking about politics, people like how the candidates look. They don't like how candidates speak. This person's presidential, this person's not presidential. You have to keep in mind the fundamental economics of the country, which sectors are thriving, which sectors are suffering, which business cycle we're in, how many people are being laid off. Okay. And this very much talks about that. Now, going back to my concern, one of my concerns being economics, I got, Salchi, this is going to resonate with you. I got an unhappy letter from my lender on Saturday. I knew one was coming, but there was some bad news in here. So I have an ARM. I think you guys there in the chat, you know what an ARM is. Okay. I did not blindly sign up for this financial product. Okay. I was encouraged by my team to get a lower interest rate a couple of years ago. And the only product that my lender would give me was an ARM. And at that time, the interest rates were low. Okay. So those of you guys are smart guys there in the chat, you know that when the interest rates rise, ARMs readjust. Okay. So I got a notice from my lender. I got a notice from my lender on Saturday that said, okay, we're raising you 2 percentage points. Okay. And for those of you who aren't aware, that's significant because your housing payment goes up. Okay. At that time. Okay. Fortunately, knock on wood, I'm in a place where I can absorb it and I can make some adjustments, but it's significant what's going on. So while you watching this, you may be enamored with Vice President Harris becoming president. On the other side, the MAGA people, you might really want your candidate back in there. But there are a lot of people who are going through financial pain right now, okay, due to the inflation and due to the high interest rates and due to the high energy costs. So keep that in mind. Guys, let me know what your concerns are in the chat. And so some people, again, are voting based upon whether or not they like the candidate, whether or not they like the candidate, okay? And some people are voting their pockets, okay? That video is below in the description box. All right. I would advise you all to take a look at that and stay abreast of the economics. I'm going to show this one. This one, I hosted Diamond Dave on my channel, I think early this year or late last year. There was a bit of a back and forth getting him on. Some guests are very specific about what they're going to talk about. Some don't want to know the questions that you're going to ask them when they agree to come on. David, there was a bit of a back and forth. He was very particular about what we were going to talk about. Dave has his own tribe. Okay, doesn't consider himself. Well, I'll just say he has his own tribe. Okay, and he one of his main points is that we're in an economic war as Black people. Okay, and he teaches investing over there, but he also encourages individuals making the best economic decisions and the best decisions for the future, and also just understanding how the environment in terms of race is constructed in this country. So he did a very, very good live stream on Saturday, and this was it. It was entitled "Raise 1.3 million for what? Politics with no policy is stupid." Okay, there's our lovely Madam Vice President, maybe our soon-to-be Madam President. Okay, right there. I'm going to read that title again. Raise 1.3 million for what? Politics with no policy is stupid. Okay, so at least within the Black community right now, okay, there's arguing and haggling over whether or not she's a Black woman. Something she is, something she isn't. Some people think she is, some people think she isn't a Black woman. Okay, I imagine the barbecues can get very, very testy just arguing that point. Okay, but one of the arguments in our particular demographic is, what policies are the politicians pushing? Should I just elect this person because of their gender and their skin color? Or should this person offer me something? Okay, what are their policy points? Are they soft on the border? Are they hard on the border? Okay, and David, I didn't write down the book that he read. He's a very well-studied guy, but he talked about, number one, the fact that the Divine Nine raised that $1.3 million. Hey, you guys are there in the chat. Salchi, you're there. Aquateki, you're there. Is $1.3 million, is that a lot of money? Is $1.3 million a lot of money? Anybody? Salchi, I'd love to hear what you would say about this. Is $1.3 million a lot of money? I'm just waiting for your answers there. Is $1.3 million. Okay, so yeah, so Aquateki. Now, personally, if I were to win the lottery, yes, that is a lot of money, you know. But when you think about the entire country and the entire economy, the inflation in the campaign space, no, $1.3 million is not really a lot of money. I think it's impressive that they were able to raise that in one night. Okay, that they were able to all get on a Zoom call, and there's been footage of the Zoom call on YouTube. And it was the men's side. It was largely driven by the Divine Nine. Roland drove the men's side, so you had Governor Westmore come on, and they flashed the alpha sign, and you had a bunch of other people come on there. But I think it's impressive that they were able to raise that in one night. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. AB Media says in campaign donations, no. Barry Little says in politics, not really. Antog, salute to Antog, he says not when it comes to politics. Okay. JJ Mars says in the Black American community, it is. Salchi says not for a presidential campaign. So when you hear $1.3 million, you're like, whoa, they raised $1.3 million. But when you when you put it in context, and they say today, $1 million is not what it once was. So now the other thing, so Dave's major point, and it was a good point, one of his points was that they were able to raise that money that quickly for this. What other things can the community spend that money on? Throughout the year, in a non-election year, what other things can the community spend that money on? Okay. One of his other points was how the political class sees us as the electorate. So we're throwing our support behind these people because of how they look, because of their gender, because of their bravado and their persona. But the political class is looking at us in terms of distinct coalitions. And I think they've described a winning coalition and a nominal selectorate and a darn it, I can't even read my own handwriting. A real selectorate and a nominal selectorate. And they also look at it in terms of interchangeables, influentials, and essentials. I forgot which book he talked about, but that's in that video. So Dave really broke it down. There are multiple things going on here. And your average citizen, especially the one looking to elect someone because of how they look or their gender or whatever, they're not looking at it in total. Okay, so Dave talked about that. And then the last one I'm going to show, the algorithm brought me this one. And there's a reason I'm wearing this Buffalo Braves t-shirt. Does anybody know who the Buffalo Braves are? Anybody? Because I'm from Buffalo. I got the Bills little poster up there. Does anybody know who the Buffalo Braves are or who they were? The Buffalo Braves. JJ Mars, no, they were not a Negro League team. That's baseball. AB Media says this is going back to the Roland Martin Zoom call, and they had one for the women the night before. And then there was even a white woman's Zoom call. I might show that on my screen share. Clark S has it right. Yep. They are now the LA Clippers. They were in Buffalo. They were our professional basketball team. Clark S has it right. The former NBA team in Buffalo. Does anybody know? So the Clippers, some of our star players were Bob McAdoo. We had Bob McAdoo. We had Ernie D. Who else did we have? We had Bob McAdoo, Ernie D. I think we had Adrian Dantley for a little while. Randy Smith. Okay, he was a notable player. So we had NBA teams coming through Buffalo. This was before I came of age, so I've only heard the stories. But does anybody know why the Buffalo Braves left for the West Coast? Anybody? There were two main reasons. Does anybody know why the Buffalo Braves left my glorious home city for the West Coast? First, San Diego, and then Los Angeles. Anybody? I'll wait a few more minutes and then I will give the answer. Bookmarks. Okay. Go back. Akwateki, you're on the trail. So one thing, they were sharing the Odd. That was our downtown arena. They were sharing it with our Canisius, which was our college team, and they were sharing it with the Buffalo Sabres, and the Braves were always getting the short end of the stick in terms of scheduling. That was one part of it. But also, when the United States deindustrialized, when the steel left Buffalo, the ownership made the determination that Buffalo can no longer support a professional basketball team. We had the Sabres, that's hockey. We had the Buffalo Bills. We still have the Sabres and the Buffalo Bills. We have a minor league baseball team, the Buffalo Bisons. But a professional sports team is entertainment, okay? And there are costs to those professional sports teams. And if the city can't support it, then the team is going to have to pick up and go some other place. And that's part of what happened to us. But deindustrialization, okay, so we're going back to the economy. It's the economy, stupid, as Bill Clinton famously said. A lot of people, they say that Vice President Harris is in a honeymoon right now. But a lot of people at the end of the day, going back to my unhappy letter here, are going to highly consider economics when they go to the voting booth in November. Okay, so this video came up in the algorithm, in my algorithm as well. This is from PBS. This one is a bit of a tearjerker. I like history. I like historical pieces. I like documentaries. This one, was called Two Families. This one was called Two American Families, 1991 to 2024. So this really reminded me of Hoop Dreams. I'm sure many of you all are, if you're sports fans out there, you're familiar with Hoop Dreams. It was made the same way. It was shot the same way. It was narrated the same way. It felt very much like Hoop Dreams. But this took place in Milwaukee. This documentary took place in Milwaukee, and it tracked two families, a white family and a black family. Okay, and it showed both of these families struggle from 1991 all the way up through 2024. They stayed in Milwaukee, and once the industries left, because all of your Rust Belt cities, Milwaukee, Chicago, Toledo, Cleveland, Buffalo, the United States used to make stuff, right? And when those industries left, when President Clinton signed NAFTA into law, a lot of families here, a lot of communities here really, really suffered. So I'm saying this to say it's significant and it means something. It really, really means something when one of the candidates says we're going to bring jobs back here, or we're going to protect jobs, or we're going to refortify the border to protect the citizens here. Okay. Because a lot of people here got swallowed up by the deindustrialization, and a lot of people here are getting decimated now by the inflation and the high interest rates. There are a lot of layoffs, and there are a lot of things going on right now. So those are all videos that resonated with me. So I'm pretty big on national security, and I'm pretty big on the economy. I'm not saying who I'm voting for. You know, I don't know what I'll do in November. Okay, but the candidate who speaks to the economy, okay, and national security and those things, and taking care of our people here, that person's going to get a lot of consideration from me. So the policies, I'm about the policies. The policies mean a lot to me versus the actual person. Some people have to vote the person. They have to like the person. They have to feel good about the person. Okay. And I understand that that's a difficult dilemma for a lot of people. They have to like the candidate to vote for the candidate. But I think you have to at least think about the policies as well. Now, really, really quickly, Salchi, I want to get to your links. I'm at 39 minutes. So there were multiple Zoom calls for Vice President Harris. There was also this one. This one made news as well. Okay. This was interesting. Okay. So this guy who quoted this, he says, Kamala is going to get the Karen vote. So for those of you who don't know, Karen is a proxy term for middle-aged white women. So she's a Karen. So that's a proxy for middle-aged white women. Okay. So this says Kamala's gonna get the Karen vote. And this tweet from JD Moonchild says, "Time to do our part, white women, exclamation mark. Black women cannot do it on their own. Hashtag answer the call." Okay. So Vice President Harris, one of her big policy points is Roe versus Wade, reinstating Roe versus Wade and a woman's right to choose. So it's gonna be a fascinating election. She's gonna pull a lot of women just based upon that. But will that give her the coalition she needs to get the 270 electoral votes? Okay. What are your concerns, guys? What are you guys thinking about? What I'm going to do, Salchi, if you want to, you're more well versed on these links than I am. Now, all right, guys, remember there are people watching me. All right, so protect the content creator. I mean, I like getting into good trouble, like Representative John Lewis back there. That was the speaker at my undergraduate commencement. Johnson C. Smith University, JCSU. Shout out to Marcus Williams. You never talk about JCSU. You only talk about Michigan. But if you want to come, Salchi, if anyone wants to come, I haven't opened the panel in a while. We'll keep it to about 20 or so minutes, maybe 25. But protect the content creator. What are your concerns for this election? Guys, no misogyny. No misogyny. Okay, what's happening here? Okay, let me close this. Let me click on this. Give me a second here. I'm going to pin it. And for you naysayers out there who say, Dr. Dunbar, you don't know who's on the other side of those avatars. Well, this is a part of YouTubing. Not everybody turns their cameras on. All right. So I'm going to drop this here. And let's see if I could do the pin trick. Damn it, I want to pin it, but the heart is in the way. Somebody leave another comment. I want to pin it. Okay, I'm going to leave a comment. Okay. All right. The StreamYard link is pinned right there to the chat. If someone, Mella, I don't recognize Mella. All right. Mella doesn't even have a picture. All right. Mella was first.
Hi, you did it. That's great. I wanted to advise you that there's this thing called overlay, which is a feature that can rest your mind about anybody approaching your panel to sabotage it. It's called overlay. So I was listening, right, and you were trying to figure it out and everything, and you did it. You pinned the link, and people can join. So congratulations on your progress.
Thank you, Mella. Yeah. David does that. He overlays. But that no one's ever flashed on my streams before. So, Mella, you were first. So, what say you? What are your election concerns? Do you have any thoughts on this or anything else?
I'm just gonna let destiny take its course. I do have a preference as to who I vote for, of course. However, that's neither here nor there because what matters is the result, right? We've seen in times past that the result is against what we expect. So it's like a championship game. It ain't over until somebody's holding up the trophy. So I just I have my hopes, and as far as concerns, I think that the candidate that I most favor will have to be explained that so we know who I'm talking about. It's not so much about her record, right? What is really going to be a source of contention is, why isn't she speaking on what she stands for? Let's keep in mind, this is a unique situation, being that she is currently serving as the vice president. The vice president's designated purpose is to serve the president. So her hands are tied to speak independently about her campaign. She has to operate in a very savvy manner. It's very, very savvy. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate how complicated it is to be a vice president, right? Full of critique and everything that's out there and the demands of your campaign and all the restrictions that come with being a vice president, right? There are restrictions that come with being a vice president. That's facts. Those are facts. And so she has to navigate those restrictions in addition to keeping her name hot in those streets, if you get what I'm saying. And
Okay.
and that's a very, you know, delicate tightrope to walk. So I give her credit for people just believing in history, as superficial as that may sound, because I think that's it's not about her making history, in my humble opinion. It's about her being refreshing. It's about her being, what else can I say? She's fit, FIT, and she's diplomatic enough to where I'm confident that she will look out for everyone, capital E, everyone. And a lot of people, they want to paint a potential leader in a box. They want to believe that they're all in on their side over here or their side over there, when in fact she has this ability, by virtue of her upbringing. Let's keep in mind she's a public school product. Let's keep in mind she, has earned, not slept her way to the top. She's earned her way to the top, not by sleeping with people. That's another falsehood, because there are people that have slept with people and they're bums in the street today. So you have to have credentials outside of whatever extracurricular activities people might catch you up in. Okay, so she's well vetted and qualified for the the competence that it takes to fulfill the position of president. Is just that she's a woman, and some people are kind of, quirk. They just get some kind of irk about that. It's like, oh Lord, I know what my wife is like on a rainy day, or I know, they're comparing her as if she's the average everyday woman, and she's not. So I say my concerns are that people will maintain their bias, right? They'll maintain their bias, and by doing so, they will allow the most jerkiest clown that has ever been desperate to slither into the office. Oh, those are my concerns. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, so everybody, so maybe I would rename this concerns, or what are your election interests? What are your policy points of interest? So that's kind of what I meant by concerns. What things are you looking for?
You want me to name policies?
Sorry?
Did you want me to name policies specific? Like what would I like
what do you,
for her to stand behind?
And I want to pass it to AB. First of all, Mel, are you part of Divine Nine?
I know some people.
I asked if you were a pilot.
I'm actually a Gulf War veteran.
Okay.
I served in the Air Force, and I was in the real Air Force. I was on the flight line, and to me, that's fraternal enough because I could land anywhere in the world, and I could be accommodated. So I'm cool with that. I've been invited to certain organizations, but I'm not interested. I'm good.
Okay. Just a few of your policy points of interest, and I'm gonna give it over to AB.
When it comes to prison reform, that's important. I don't believe in releasing people who have done atrocious crimes, right? I do believe in humane treatment, right? And so that's I believe in a number of other things, but for whatever reason, prison reform is the top of the list. I could go into other details, but it sounds to me like you want at least 3 points. So the first point.
No. Whatever resonates with you. Where do you fall on border security?
That's crucial. That's crucial.
Okay.
That's crucial. Yeah. Because as I've just stated, I don't want criminals running and frolicking around doing their criminal thing. And there's no guarantee that those who are being, as you say, let in, as one would say, not you, as one would say, those who are being let in, I haven't heard of any protocol as to how, no psychological evaluation, like nothing. Like they're just like, come on in and bring your problems with you. And to me, that's a flood of issues that they're just waiting to happen.
Okay. Thank you. AB, what say you?
How's it going, Dr. Dunbar? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Shout out to everybody on the panel. Thanks for having me.
My concerns are, well, one obvious concern is inflation, the high grocery prices that we're dealing with right now, the high rent prices. We've got a lot of homeless out here right now because they can't afford to stay anywhere. The average price of a house now is around $400,000. That's way too high. And most people in my generation, which is millennial, can't afford that. You mentioned border security. I'm very concerned about the border. Very concerned. And it's not that I'm interested in. It's not that I don't want immigrants to come here, but too many migrants, as they call them, have came here, and the problem is actually so bad that other migrants that came here before are complaining. Who came here without going through the process are complaining, and I think that's an issue that both candidates are going to have to address, along with inflation and the other issues.
Okay. Yeah, well, I talked for long enough, so I'm going to get out of the way. Let you guys have the mic. Salchi, what's going on?
Good evening.
It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a year, man.
I've seen Salchi on video.
Yeah, it's rare. I mean, it depends on how you want me to dismantle all the real issues. Basically, at the very beginning of before the previous events for the last 2 weeks, I said neither parties were qualified. So I'm gonna put that out there right from the very beginning. Neither of them are qualified, and obviously it's evident at this point. But the links that I sent you, those aren't choosing any sides, Democrat, Republican. No, none of that stuff. All it is just literally tracking tax plans, tax policies, results of various policies. That's it. And that's how I look at things. I don't get caught up in the dramatization of politics, because the truth of the matter is the real power, they really don't address regular folk. Okay, this is all theatrics, and people who know better understand that, and we don't get caught up into those things. We look at cold hard facts, cold hard economics. Everything is just black and white, okay, or from research. So, I mean, I don't know how many times I've explained why the economy is the way it is, and I get pushed back at, the economy is strong and this, that, and the third, and I always ask the same questions. Okay, what are your sources, and what inputs are nominally make the economy look strong? Because if the economy was strong, why would unemployment rate continue to go up? Also, why would a federal government consistently change the numbers for employment? They've been doing it for well over 12 months consecutively. The last time they did that, what occurred? The great financial calamity. Interesting. Similar things. The last time we went through that, they announced the recession 12 months after the recession actually started. Again, I'm not saying vote blue, vote red, but when you're in my arena, if you can't talk the numbers, if you don't have real sources, you can't be taken seriously. Period. Inflation, how are we going to decrease inflation? People need to put numbers to reality. Okay? Tax receipts 2024 fiscal year, $5.3 trillion tax receipts, right? No, excuse me. I think it's like $3.2 trillion tax receipts across the board in this country. The government spent 5.3 or 5.2 trillion. That's spent. That's not also the extra funding money that they put into the system, which we're talking to the tune of $9 trillion. Now, are you hearing the margins here? There's your inflation. And there's no production. There will be no production to cover those margins. That's one of the main reasons why we have inflation. And people don't even understand what inflation is. I'll give you an example. You brought up 1990, 1991 earlier. Okay, 1990 dollars, $40,000 in 1990 dollars to today is 96,422, I believe. That's the equivalent. The new equivalent of 100,000 from 1990 is damn near $250,000. Wake up. That's reality, not theater. Where else would you like for me to go? Employment? Interest rates were artificially low after GFC for 12 consecutive years. So you see all these companies who are unprofitable have been operating. So when the interest rates increase drastically in a short period of time, of course there's going to be calamity. It has to be. One, we were artificially low with interest rates, so the cost of borrowing was artificially low. What do you expect is going to happen? So, Federal Reserve President Powell, I call him the president. They're going to lower the rates. Personally, I think they're going to lower it in October. He said September. I think October. Most likely, I think max. And I've been right consistently for over 2 years. It's been documented on here and BGS's lives. 50 basis points, which is 0.5%. It won't be any more than that. And guess what? It's not going to do anything. It's not going to do much. Realistically, interest rates, in my opinion, need to get what would be fair would be closer to 3-4%. That's realistic. But again, there's so much junk in the system we're gonna be going through this personally, minimum till 2026. What do you want to talk about next? Housing? Housing has to be expensive because most of the local municipalities, they have made it very difficult or expensive to build. So if developers cannot profitably build, why would you? And then on top of that, interest rates increased. And then after that fact, this administration has paid to bring in a lot of migrants. They're not illegal. They're not illegals because they're allowing them in. So now, basic economics is supply and demand. Okay, low supply of housing, and then you bring in millions more people into this country. What do you think is going to happen to the prices? It's going to go up. And I'm not even going to include all the stuff with the hedge funds purchasing, because people talk about that stuff. That's a whole different animal. But just bringing the migrants in. So prices are going to stay up for a while. Yes, it has been ticking down, but we're talking median price, which was what, 200 and some odd thousand in 2019, right before the pandemic. Now it's like some 420,000. Again, most people don't know anything about economics. I keep on telling people, your income, take home, should, for your mortgage, tax, all that stuff, should not be more than 1 week's pay, which is 25% of your income, net, not gross. What most people are talking about is nominal, which is gross income. So yeah, at 420,000, you need to be making some $150,000 gross. Is the majority of people, are the people at the average or at the median making that kind of money? No. Even if you're talking about people who are married or together, because we know the marriage rates are in the trash can in this country because of the environment. This is why people cannot afford a home. That's why. Basic economics, basic numbers I'm giving you guys, not all this extra nonsense people are talking about. That's what it costs.
Yeah.
Savings rates are down 3.1% on average. But the economy is strong. That's not another sign of a strong economy. Retail sales. I mean, I can go down the list. The only reason why you see the stock market so strong is because there's nowhere else to go to put your money. And the people who have money, that's where they've put it. S&P 500, there's only been 10 companies that have kept the S&P 500 up. 10 companies. And realistically, it's 6. Do the math. If you want to get anything close to what's happening at the ground level, you don't look at S&P 500. You actually look at the Russell 2000. But most people won't talk about that. It goes over people's heads. These are the realities.
Well, Salchi, I don't think a lot of people, particularly in our tribe, our ethnic group, I don't think they even know or they're interested in this. And I was going to say that all these things are interconnected. Okay, so one of Vice President Harris's one of the things she's really rallying her troops on is Roe versus Wade, but the country's on negative replacement. Okay, and that's part of the reasons. That's part of the reason why the migrants were. That's part of the reason why they brought the migrants here, is because people here aren't having children. So it's kind of like, and it's for those who would say, Dr. Dunbar, you're against a woman's right to choose. I'm going to quote Jerry Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this is all interconnected. Okay, but Dr. And here's the other thing, Salchi, and I'm going to say something that's also unpopular. It's something I observed. Okay. That the orange man, his running mate, made a comment about cat ladies, and he said that eventually that's going to overwhelm the system. Okay, because you're going to have a lot of, because children actually do serve a purpose. Yes. Who's going to take care of you when you get older? A lot of people are not thinking about that. They haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
And that's gonna put a lot of stress on the system at some point. Go ahead.
Correct.
And I want to give Clark a chance, but go ahead,
yes.
Saucy.
I'll just knock Roe versus Wade out the park real quick. They misrepresent what that really is. That does not mean women still cannot go and do whatever they want to do with their bodies. Because originally, all Congress really said was, this is not something that Congress is going to make a decision on. This is not something that's going to be at the federal level. This is something that we're not going to use federal dollars. It's going to be decided at the state. That's a fact. But remember, people don't read policy.
Yeah. Well, they've also substituted civics for other things in the school systems.
Yeah.
So folks don't know the three branches of government. They don't know, how many senators there are and how many reps there are, because they've substituted civics for some other things in K through 12.
Yes.
I'll just leave that there.
And they say that, and they always use a trope of, well, the poor women they won't be able to use the service. But you can go on Planned Parenthood's website and look at their stats, and you'll see they're not their primary customer. Their primary customer is a working woman who can afford it. It's right on their website. But as usual, people don't read, or they're lying or being disingenuous. Yeah. It is what it is. It's just numbers, man.
Yeah. Clark, we're going to talk to you next. Please consider subscribing if you're not. Please smash the like button if you want to donate something to the channel. My Cash App and PayPal are there. The Super Chat is live as well. Clark, what do you have on this? What are your election concerns or policies of interest? What do you want to hear?
Dr. Dunbar, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
All right. Is my audio coming through okay?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Heck of a lineup to follow up. Love the points from everybody so far. Thanks for having me. I'll keep my points short and sweet. For me, the main points that I'm looking at this election in terms of my decision is going to be, one, foreign policy. I don't want us spinning into any further global catastrophes. We're fighting two proxy wars right now, one in Israel, one in Ukraine. And I think with a different administration, this could have been avoided. So that's a huge point for me. Secondly is the economy and inflation, as mostly everyone has spoken on so far. The housing issue, the price of goods and services through the roof. And that's definitely something that, we need to get under control as a nation. So that's going to be a huge factor for me. And then lastly is looking at the unhoused and the mental health crisis in this country. I'd be curious to see what candidates have anything to say about that in terms of any federal programming or federal policies to address that. I know that the former president, 45, Donald Trump, he was in favor of a national push to reopen mental health institutions, the psychiatric wards, the mental health wards. And there were I know there was an article in the New York Times that were actually complimentary of him when he proposed that back in, I believe it was 2019, that he had a position of trying to arouse a conversation or a push with mental health and getting people with mental health issues off of our streets in a lot of our cities across the country. So I'll be curious to see if any other candidates speak about that in the debate or in these last 100 days into the election. But for me, just to wrap it up, those are my main 3 points: foreign policy, economy / inflation, and then lastly, then the unhoused and mental health crisis across the country.
Okay, I'm going to say something and then I'll let someone else go for a few minutes. Yeah, I think one of the other, we have 50 states in the union. So for some people, it is hard to think about what's happening outside of your neighborhood. But I think that's another issue, is that people have a hard time thinking about what's happening in Iowa and South Dakota and the places where I don't think YouTube will strike this, where the fentanyl is really getting out of hand. I mean, that goes back to deindustrialization. That's a really big deal, the fentanyl. And just because it's not happening in your neighborhood doesn't mean that it's not important and that your fellow countrymen and women are not being impacted by that. So the economic decisions that our elected officials and the people in the C-suite. Those make a big difference. Salute to Passport OG. He makes excellent content. Thank you for stopping through my chat. Okay.
To the opioid point, if you've never seen a methadone clinic, it's scarier than you think.
I wouldn't even want to be near it.
So yeah, I heard you talk about it. I think it was on Charles' channel. Tell us about what that's like, a methadone clinic. I've heard of them, but I've never seen one.
Well, first of all, the lines are out the door of people that go there, and full disclosure, I know about it because I get rides to my dialysis treatment, and we had to drop a lady off at the methadone clinic. The driver told me that they have to go get that. They get some kind of shot to keep them clean, to keep them from going back to the drugs.
Yeah.
The driver told me they have to go get that shot every day.
Yeah.
Even on Sunday, every day.
Yes.
So it's a serious problem, and I honestly hope the next president, whoever that may be, addresses it. Especially if you want to have more children, and population can, have a vibrant population.
Okay. So actually, for everybody who doesn't know what we're talking about when we talk about the population, the two gentlemen, Dr. Davies and Mr. Harrigan, I was talking with when this stream first started, that clip. In that discussion, I think it was that one they described. It was the subsequent one. Our country is like a Ponzi scheme, right? So ideally, you have more people on the base of the pyramid paying up, but if the pyramid inverts and you have fewer younger people on the bottom and there are more older people on the top, collapses. You're going to have something that looks drastically different from what we have right now. And that's, I think our elected officials need to be more outspoken about that, because for every action, there's a reaction. For every effect, for every cause, there's an effect. So I'm not saying this to be insensitive towards the pro Roe versus Wade crowd, but you have to think about what the long-term ramifications of these things are, and also what are the long-term ramifications for everybody and for the country. Do you still want a country, or do you want something that's going to be falling apart, like in I Am Legend, where where nature's taking over again? By the way, that is called, for those of you who don't know, there are people called anti-natalists, okay, who want fewer humans on the planet. And I think the environmental agenda is linked to this as well. There are a lot of people who think humans are bad and we should have fewer of them. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Thank you kindly. The thing about the baby boomers, right? That initiative was supported. The brother on the panel had mentioned housing being an issue. We're not even going to talk about how people who are determined to be successful have found themselves in tremendous educational debt. It's there's no incentive to reproduce, is what I'm saying. You said children matter, right? I believe you. However, what's the incentive to conduct a nuclear family structure? Where's the incentive? And I think a presidential candidate is going to have to, start knitting that tapestry. So I just wanted to say that. Thanks for listening.
Great point.
What I wanted to add is, hopefully this isn't controversial. I mean, I don't think it's controversial, but a lot of people don't realize, because for you to be high up in power of influence or even in politics, human beings are a resource. That's it. When you understand, when you can understand that, remove the morals, then how things are run around the world or locally become very crystal clear. You are a resource, period. Just like in accounting, there's a financial statement. You got your revenue, you got your income coming in, you got your costs coming out, you got assets, and you got liabilities. Are you in the red or are you in the black? That's a country. That's by country. That's by state, by county, by city, by industry, by company, by individual. And that's not including any kind of moral or any feelings or anything else.
Yeah, definitely. Take the emotions out of it. Definitely.
So America is, a lot of people don't realize what America is. America is really a place for talented people. So if you don't understand what it takes to compete amongst the talented, amongst the top 10, amongst the top 1%, we're seeing it happen now. You get wiped out. Point blank, period. You're not useful. Like, again, these are not my feelings. Just look at what is happening.
It's
look
logic.
at what they consistently do, and you'll see it's crystal clear.
It's logic that there is strength in numbers. That's logic. And by that logic, okay, correct me in the event I'm wrong. By that logic that there's strength in numbers, it makes sense to bring as many people in as migrants who you hope are fit, because the current population, almost 80%, are unfit to defend this country. And I'm talking about but people are sick in this country. They're physically ill. And so it's like, for instance, it's discouraging the armed services that a large majority of Americans who are between the ages of 18 and 25 are just metabolically ill. And
Yes.
so no wonder they're bringing in people who are, physically fit enough, into this country as migrants. Because there's strength in numbers. How are you going to defend a country if everybody in the country is metabolically ill? So
I could tell you exactly the reasons why they actually brought him in. First, the environment, generally speaking, in this country it's not for people to actually thrive. Not anymore, and it hasn't been for a while. I wish this wasn't the case, but it is what it is. The main reason why they're paying to bring migrants in is because those of us who are here, our birth rates were at 1.7 when you need to be at 2.1. That's why. That's the main reason why. Secondly, your tax receipts to keep everything going. Okay? If you look at, very few people look at state financial statements. I look at mine. I look at my counties. My county is way in the black. I mean, like over $1 trillion in the black. My county, not state. My county. Okay? So they brought them in here because a lot of the lower end jobs, for the most part, which are kind of, for the most part, dwindling, they'll get those jobs and pay taxes. That is why. And we didn't even, and then we didn't even get into the Social Security problem. The Social Security trust. Social Security isn't going to go anywhere. People don't even understand Social Security. Social Security isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be here. But the trust itself, that is what's going to be bankrupt by 2033, based on Federal Reserve, based on Social Security Administration. Again, most people don't read. I read their report. So I already know. But the main reason why, as BG has expressed, and he is correct, was because during the Reagan administration, they borrowed a lot of money. And what didn't they do? Put it back in. And it's easy for people, especially politicians, because that isn't their money. And it's easy for them to do that because very few people, and remember, I'm in finance. And a lot of stuff I talk about, let me tell you guys something. A lot of your bankers don't understand. Very scary. C-suite people, they don't understand. So they don't even understand how retirement and how the Social Security works. They really don't understand. People think, all right, put my money in, I'm guaranteed to get the money. You sure about that? I mean, in the real world, are you sure about that? You see how the economy goes up and down. But guess what they always express? Perfect, ideal case scenarios. Don't equate for any downturn markets, nothing. It's unrealistic. So, in my opinion, if you don't understand that, and you get to that age where it's time to retire, and it isn't enough because you don't understand inflation, you didn't realize that the original purpose of Social Security, in its but people don't read, was for supplementary. It will supplement your income. That is its purpose. It was not to replace your living expense, your living. It wasn't. Just like your 401k is not designed for you to technically live off of. Really. It's really a supplementary. Most people don't know that. Most people don't even know who even started the 401k. The guy's still alive. He has a consulting firm. I've listened to him. I've read his stuff. He got a book out. So when it comes to the Social Security, and then people don't understand how that works, or their pensions, they don't understand how that works, and they don't understand how demographics works to to put the money back in there. And we're not even including the profits or interest that they say you're going to get. We're just talking about keeping your capital that you put in there.
Yeah.
So the vast majority of people are just not going to make it. Sorry to tell you guys the truth.
I want to thank Kareen for the generous super sticker. Thank you, Kareen. Always a pleasure to see you. I'm going to throw this in here. We'll hang on for another 10 to 15 minutes. Work is too late. So going back, I think one of the takeaways when you're listening to the candidates talk and give us propaganda and everything. Okay, Clark, thank you for coming up.
Thanks, Dr. Dunbar. Appreciate you. You guys have a good night.
All right.
Well.
You too.
All
Sir.
right, I'll be listening.
Well, yes.
Take care.
Just going back to your comment, Mela, about children. I think one of the other things we're seeing now. Oh, by the way, the master teacher stopped through the chat. Salute. I pinned the link there if you want to come into our cipher for a few minutes.
Hello, BGS.
One of the things that we're experiencing is the effects of the unknitting of the family fabric,
family unit,
the fabric of the family. So this is all coming back. This is all coming to a head right now. Having children that used to mean something, that used to be, I guess, philosophically, I could see, in some ways they are burdens. Nicholas Eberstadt's talked about that, but also she's giggling. I mean, the woman has to incubate the baby for 9 months.
Yes.
So I could see in a society like this,
it's a very harsh sentence, isn't it? Like,
but that's interesting that you would say sentence as opposed to, some would argue that's the most important job in the world is creating new life.
That's why I said sentence, because it's a matter of perspective. In the event that you're hopeful your child will grow to care for you, you can have a positive attitude and not consider them a burden. You might consider the things they do that you don't understand as conflicting with your sensibilities, but a burden, when you classify someone as a burden, meaning a child, that is basically focusing on the non-compliance aspect of their existence. And so they can pick up on that. They can pick up on whether or not you consider them a burden. And next thing you know, they're rebelling. And so who's going to take care of you then? Because they you've planted a seed of rebellion just because they picked up on this concept that they're a burden. So it's that's why it's the most important job in the world, because you're cultivating a human being to be what you expect them to be, and thereby your consciousness, your attentiveness, your self-discipline, your value, everything has to be in absolute control as you are demonstrating that job. It's tough, because how many among us are in control of ourselves all the time? So that's why it's a hard job.
So Melissa, let me clarify. So when I say burden, I wasn't meaning that literally. I was just coming at it from the context that we're in an era of the age of I, at the male improvement. When I met you, Salty, that's Ram said that. He said we're in the age of I. What do I want to do? What do I want? Where do I want to travel? I want to go to Dubai. I want to go to Burma. I want to sail the high seas.
Yes.
Versus, I'm going to create seeds, and I'm going to take care of my folks, and my seeds are going to take care of me.
Yeah.
And those seeds are going to be the most important thing versus what I want to do. So that's the context in which I said burden.
One of the things, as far as population growth, and I'm going to try to word this as carefully as I can. One of the things I'm afraid they're going to have to do is they're going to have to address the divorce laws. And let me be perfectly clear. This is both for men and women. Because one of the reasons why a lot of men don't want to get married now is because they're afraid they'll be married to a woman for 4 or 5 years, and because they were married to them, they will be able to just take half of what they've earned over the years. Even before they even met the chick, she would just be able to take half of his earnings and income, and that's not even getting to child support. And unfortunately, and this is not me saying that women or men can't get a divorce, but you're going to have to address those laws and how unfair they are. And then there's some other case. Well, you go the other way too, because if I'm not mistaken, Mary J. Blige and Halle Berry are paying child support. So this kind of swings both ways. They're going to have to address how things are dished out. Is what I'm trying to say.
For me, it's very, very simple, and this is what tells you. And this is what I was saying earlier about the environment. The environment is not conducive for healthy. It's not a healthy environment socially at all.
Right.
If this society or these politicians, if they were serious about family and serious about thriving and progress, it'd be very simple. Split it down the middle. There will be no court case. You're not coming into court to waste our time, to waste resources initially, unless we're talking extreme cases. Because the man can work, the woman can work. They already know what it costs on average by state. These things are your states, your cities, and your counties. I'm telling you, all they do is run numbers. They do research, so they already know what it costs on average at the median to raise a child. We split it down the middle. Done. End of story. There will be no arguments. I mean, unless someone is again a criminal or all this other crazy stuff. Again, those are extreme or exceptional cases. So if they were serious, that'd be the first thing. Immediate joint custody, automatically default, alimony out the door. Why are you literally being a leash onto somebody? Because that's what you are. You are not with that person anymore. They are not obligated to support you. Why would they? You guys aren't together. Period. Alimony is different from child support. So those two different things. And remember, these things are all based off a state. You don't even need to get married in some states. In some states,
family law it's definitely in favor of women, and I find that to be unfair. For instance, there could be a woman who is totally not appropriate as a parent, as compared to the father, but the default judgment goes to the mother. That's not fair. That's nonsense. It's just like, so in the meantime, the children have to be cared for. Whomever has custody, the children have to be cared for.
And that's what I'm saying. Default joint custody. If this country was serious, or the states, because it's at the state level, it would the default would be joint custody right off the bat. There wouldn't be an argument. There shouldn't be an argument if it's really about the children.
Mm-hmm.
But that tells me it isn't about the children,
right?
Because who's getting paid when you get a divorce? Who's getting paid when someone wants alimony? Who's getting paid to get child support?
Yeah, family law
always gets paid.
It's very skewed.
Thank you.
Yeah. So a lot of these things, right now they're coming to a head, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna ask for closing statements because I gotta make the donuts tomorrow. And so I think I watch a lot of podcasts and symposias, and I know conservative is a bad word for some people, but when you approach it from a collegial and academic context, conservative actually means just holding on to what was before. That's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And holding on to, in some instances, I mean, what was before wasn't perfect, but it's attempting to hold on to what worked. Okay. Where liberal means changing things. So there should be ideally a balance between the two. But I think that's kind of at the heart of this as well. Family court, divorce law. This country has gotten away from a lot of the things that once made it. I'm not going to say that, the G word. No. That once made it a different place.
Exceptional.
Yeah. Truth, justice, in the American way, like Superman says. All right, you guys, and Gal, you have anything you want to close with?
I'd like to say, shout out to the 60th year of the Civil Rights Act, and
so Mela, before you go, because it sounds like you're pro pro cam. How do you respond when you hear someone say she's not black, she's not from our community, she's not a sister?
That's irrelevant. What matters is her ability, her stamina, and her diplomacy. I would also say that let's keep in mind that her opponent is so deprived in his sense of thinking that he has to resort to calling her a bum just to get a rise out of those who support him. It's really pathetic. It's like, and so that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at it from an objective point of view. Let's say hypothetically, I could care less about either one of them. I don't know their history. When I hear the news clip of a 78-year-old criminal referring to a district attorney, someone who's like, he's referring to her as a bum, so I could not care less what her ethnicity is, what her upbringing is. I'm looking at that guy. I'm like, this guy right here is somebody that is off the rails, and he can't be trusted with his finger on the button. That's what I'm looking at. That's it.
Well, I do think he's going to have to be careful debating her and being so heavy-handed
Agreed.
I think his team had better protect
Yeah,
him.
what's up with the lack of impulse control? What's up with that?
Because that will cost him. But what I will say on a funny note is that I do like seeing Cam have a good time. She likes to dance, and one of my favorite gifs when I'm texting my friends is there's this one where she's in the park dancing with and she's having a good old time.
She makes a she makes a mean pot of greens. I was like, no, they did.
No comment.
I was like, wow. So she's actually, see, that's a turnoff right there. When you're placating, when you're trying to turn on the black vote by, food and hot sauce and greens and stuff, like, it's like, okay, so you think black people are stupid, It's like you're overreaching to try to relate to black people. I don't appreciate that, to be fair.
Well, Mela, but that begs the question, is that, do our people respond to that? Much the way Roland was doing the lobbying with Hillary, and Hillary's bringing her hot sauce, and I think Cam had her hot sauce somewhere.
If they're on drugs, be it pharmaceutical or illicit, if they're on drugs, they can't see the forest for the trees.
Okay,
it works.
I would just suggest there's probably a reason they do that.
It works.
All right, closing words. Anybody?
What did you say?
Sorry,
I apologize. I must have been on drugs. What did you say?
I said there's probably a reason they're doing that.
Yeah, they think black people are stupid. We have a history of I would say in mass numbers, not thinking for ourselves. We have a history of being sheep, unfortunately. And not to say that any other ethnicity isn't practicing the same follow the leader mentality. It's just that when it comes to our people, there was a time we actually took the time to inform each other about poignant laws and regulations that matter. And we're not doing that. We're just enchanted by media stimulation, unfortunately, and propaganda, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go. Thank you for having me on. As I said earlier, man. I mean, again, just look at your demographics. Yeah, I mean, you can. You could see the country's financial statements to see what's really going on. You can see your state or your county or city's financials to see how your politicians are managing society. It's clear cut as far as I'm concerned. In terms of demographics, the biggest voting bloc are white women. Okay, it's very, very, to me, it's very simple. All right. In terms of your income and inflation, all that stuff going on, I've said it before. I know it sounds like blasphemy, but as far as I'm concerned, man, if you're not in the top 5% income earners, man, well, I mean, that's where we are right now. And that's about it, man. With both sides, who's running right now? Again, what I sent Dr. Dunbar, they're just trackers on their policies and their taxes. Period. End of story. And as far as I'm concerned, that's how you make an informed decision. Because you look at, well, at least both candidates at this point, you can look at their resume, at exactly what they signed off on, and you can compare it to the results. Again, black and white. That's it. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Salty. Good to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, AB, do you want to say anything?
Yes, thanks for having me up. It was a good discussion. Keep it grinding, keep it pushing, keep it moving. I'm out.
Okay. Yeah, so everybody, let's see, should I play this entire thing? It's 4 minutes. I said, you know what, for completeness, I'm going to play that entire clip with Dr. Davies and James, and then I'll wind this down. Some of you might, if you decide to leave, that's fine. But I said I would do it earlier for completeness, and I think this kind of gets to just some of the things that voters should think about when going to the voting booth, in addition to whether or not you like the candidate. Okay, I'm going to play it. It's 4 minutes. So if you guys want to leave, I understand I'm at the end here. So I'm going to play this, then I'm going to turn this off. All right.
Something to think about, because you started us off. This is the smart thing that I couldn't think about earlier. You started off by asking, how did we get here? And there's a thought experiment you might consider. Imagine that a bunch of people, a large number of people, 200 of us, go out for dinner. And the deal is, whatever the tab is, we're going to split it evenly. That's it. You order whatever you want, but we're going to split the tab evenly. And notice what happens here. Every single person there, all 200 of us, have two motivations. The one is, don't order more than what you can afford to pay for, because, you know, we got to pay for this at the end. The other motivation is, go ahead and order more, because whatever you order is going to be spread over 200 people. And so we start out and we're all very careful. We only order what we can afford. And then James down at the end of the table, he orders the filet mignon and the shrimp and all of this stuff and a bottle of wine.
Bottle of champagne, that's right.
And I look down there, I say, oh my God, I can't afford my share of that thing. But on the other hand, he's having a nice time over there. Well, I can't afford that. I'm going to order it too. I mean, I can't afford the bill as it is. And you see that and you order. And before you know it, we're all ordering as we all go around, and each of us orders more. And now we owe a tremendous amount of money. Each of us has an incentive to order still more to make up for the money that we're losing. And that's exactly what politicians do. I want to get elected, and so I'll promise the voters, elect me and I'll give you free iPhones. I know it's a stupid idea, but the voters will vote for me. And if I don't offer the free iPhones, James is going to come along and he's going to say, elect me, I'll give you free iPhones and free healthcare. And now you've got to compete with that. And so you're offering free education and free healthcare and free iPhones. And you can see how this works. It's the system. It's a natural outcome of the system. It's not malfeasance. It's not stupidity. It's a natural outcome you get when you allow the government to expand beyond its constitutional limits.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, we are just about at the end. This has been a fun discussion. This last question is pretty open-ended, and maybe this time horizon is not long enough. But where do you all see the United States in 10 to 20 years? Should I set that further? Or, I mean, are we in for some big changes in the short term or in the long term? Or what are your predictions?
I think I could speak to the economics. James's answers are probably more interesting. But I think in the next 15 years, so plus or minus, maybe 10, maybe 20. Social Security as we know it is different. I don't think it's going to go away, but it's going to be significantly transformed. And by that, I mean at the least, workers are going to have to be paying about 20% more in Social Security tax than they're paying now. At the most, we might be seeing things like Social Security redefined so that anyone earning over a certain amount doesn't get it. Right. And we're going to argue about what that amount is. So I think that's one of the things that happens. I think another thing that happens is that the government becomes kind of a permanent player in higher education, not only in terms of footing the bill, but you're going to see them turn around and Congress is going to say things like, well, look, we're paying for all of this tuition. We should have a say in what you universities are teaching and who you're hiring. And all of a sudden, we're going to become public school 2.0.
Wow, you guys are all still here. I thought you guys would have ran off. All right, they're from they have their own podcast. Their podcast is called the Words and Numbers Podcast. They release videos every week, and they wrote a book called Cooperation and Coercion, and it's a pretty good book. And I think I'll just stop this here. So everybody, thank you for coming to hang out and humor me. I might do another one next week, but we're almost at break time, and I'm trying to finish my book here, and I'm coming down the stretch of finishing that. So that's they say the hardest part of anything is finishing it. So look out for that. The Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. That's going to be published really, really soon. So, hey, Salchi, Mella, AB, Clark, thank you guys for coming up. Thank you to all of you who hung out in the chat. Thank you, Kareen, for the super chat. And yeah, everybody, I will talk to you again soon somewhere in the YouTube streets. Please smash that like button if you're not subscribed. I think I'm 6 away from 2,000. So that will be very, very helpful if someone would be gracious enough to push me over that mark. So with that, everyone, yeah, I have a newsletter that's in the description box in case you want to sign up. I've been so busy trying to finish this book that I haven't had time. So to write and publish my latest newsletter. Trust, thank you for asking about that. She asked about that. Where's the newsletter? So that's cool. All right, everyone. Hey, do your research. There's a lot to keep abreast of. And in the coming months, we're all going to be hit with a lot of propaganda and spin and manufactured news and narrative. So do your research, whether it's on Project 25, whether it's on the economy, whether it's on inflation, whether it's on foreign policy. Do your own research and look at multiple sources. All right, everyone, have a good night. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye. And the reason the background I used was a chessboard. This is politics. This is chess. Nothing is being done that's not pre-thought out or premeditated. And there's a reason for every move. I forgot to mention this when Salchi was up, but in the Danielle DiMartino video, and I would encourage you all to watch her content just to know what the economy and the market is doing. She said that President Obama, Barry, he either started or he's involved or he has say at the National Bureau of Economic Research. Okay. So politics and economics, they're intermingled. And economics is very much a part of all of this. So you have to pay attention to what the players are doing, which knobs they're turning, which levers they're pulling or raising behind the scenes to understand what's happening in its totality. All right, let me do that again. All right, everyone, as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.